been pitching for about 2 years at Angel Investors Network. They taught me how to pitch.
The training that they have given us, the knowledge that they have provided, and the experience is truly invaluable. I can't suggest Angel Investors highly enough.
They figured out how to get me together in 30 days.
AIN went above and beyond to make sure that I was prepared to pitch.
They take you, regardless of what level you're at. Is it a brand new executive summary? Is it a brand new idea? Or are you further along, kind of like I was? So if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you're thinking about starting a business, this is where you want to be.
How do we just continue to surround ourselves with good ideas, good people, and ultimately help advance our company? And that's exactly what Angel Investors Network does.
We couldn't have done it without Angel Investors Network.
Awesome. Welcome, everyone. This is Jeff Barnes, CEO of Angel Investors Network, and we have a rare treat today. We have the founder of Angel Investors Network here, Greg Ryder, as well as a special guest, Walt Pitchford, and my business partner, Kylie Dahl. How are you guys today?
I'm doing good.
Doing well.
Glad to be here.
Awesome.
I love watching that sizzle reel.
It's a lot of fun, isn't it? We got a really good video, guys. So shout out to Alex, who does a great job with all of our videos and everything like that. So wonderful. I'm really excited about this. So we're going to be talking just briefly here for the next 10 minutes or so about the Business Wealth Summit that we have coming up in just 10 days, right? So at the time of this recording, we're 10 days out. Really excited about this because we have an incredible event lineup and we have incredible speakers. So, all the folks here are going to be speaking. So, Walt, why don't you take a few minutes, just go ahead and introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, so my name's Walt Pitchford, and I'm a former basketball player. Played at the University of Florida, University of Nebraska, and then played for the Toronto Raptors organization on their G League, Raptors 905, and really just transitioned, from basketball to business, attending programs like the Next Step business program at Tuck's Business School, and then found my way into private equity. And after, extent in private equity, I ventured over to venture capital and got an opportunity with a firm called Spark Labs Group, a global ecosystem of VC accelerators and a VC firm. And from there, started a few companies myself, and with the supporting and backing of the VC firm in their ecosystem.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So, the leap from sports into private equity and VC, I don't think that's a normal leap, is it? Do a lot of folks that are in the athletic community go do that?
No, certainly not. I think you're starting to see more athletes transition into business and figure out the side of finance, entrepreneurship, starting up, their own VC networks. But it's definitely, it wasn't popular when I was doing it now.
That's very cool. So what made you do that? What made you make that decision to go from, you're playing sports all your life, right? You don't get to that level without playing practically every day from the moment you can walk, right? So how'd that happen?
So I'll keep it brief, but it is a long story. It's definitely my upbringing. My grandfather being a very big entrepreneur in our family. He started an organization called the MBMOA, the National Black McDonald's Operators Association. So that was pretty entrepreneurial at the time in the 60s, where he was really great best friends with Ray Kroc, and Ray Kroc gave him his opportunity in the business of McDonald's. So that right there, and listening to the stories of just him being an entrepreneur and what he had to overcome, and then also understanding that, sports isn't the only thing. So I was playing basketball, and I was taught, don't let basketball use you. You use basketball. You're putting in the work. You're becoming good. You are putting in the time. You have to get something out of that as well. So don't be one-dimensional. So that's something that stuck with me from my family, that instilled in me over a course of time, and I just ran with that.
That's awesome. That's great too. Like, that's a really great story too, to have your father, who was friends with Ray Kroc, creating one of the biggest brands in the entire world, and have that sort of, we talk about the inner club, right? Like the good old boys club, the good old boys network. We talk about that regularly, and most people have their own definition of what that is. But I would say your dad was definitely in that good old boys club at the highest level, wouldn't you?
Yeah, my grandfather.
Your grandfather, you're right.
And then my dad was an entrepreneur himself. Him and my mother, they started a real estate investment firm, so they had their own, gig going, and that was great to see. And they instilled a bunch of information into me. But the person that takes reign in the family is definitely my grandfather for sure.
Very cool.
All right, I want to ask a question to Walt. So Walt, I was born into a wealthy family, and my father was in the Good Old Boys Club, and I'm not going to go into that story, but I do want to ask you this question. So private equity, venture capital, have you ever been in a situation where you've experienced the venture capital side of the world? And tell me a little bit about the dynamics of your thought process of how those two investment verticals are just different, and which one you like better. Just like talk a little bit about because those are a lot different, like the venture capital.
A lot different. Yeah, you're correct. A lot different. So the one thing that I admire about venture capital versus the venture capital, it's more so it's about people, right? It's about your ecosystem of who you align with, and what's their angle? Do they have good intentions, and have they built their community off of that? And that's one thing that I've found and learned over time, but it was immediate that I picked up on it, and that's why I joined Spark Labs Group, is due to the fact they didn't have to bring someone like me into their network. They didn't have to bring an athlete. They didn't have to bring someone that wasn't an all-star in the NBA. They could have gone their way, and I would have went my way. But at the end of the day, they had this pay it forward mentality. And for me, seeing that was something that I've tried to educate and teach business acumen to other athletes, because that's something that differentiates them versus other firms and accelerators globally. So that pay it forward Silicon Valley mentality of, I'm not looking for anything. I want to build your business acumen. I want to pay it forward to you because someone paid it forward to them. And I commend them on that. But when going back to your question, I see a lot of people talk about venture capital as vulture capital. And fortunately, I haven't had to experience that. So I'm grateful for that opportunity. I'm grateful for Spark Labs Group. But the one thing that I love about venture capital versus, PE or any other finance gig out there, it's similar to basketball. And it's similar to, I would say, probably any other sport. But since I played, that's what I can relate to. It's more so of, you have to put in so many hours, and repetition after repetition to get it right in basketball. And it's the same thing with dealing with startups. You're not just giving them capital. You're giving them resources. You're giving them your time. You're giving them your business acumen. So when you do that, that's great. But then at the snap of a finger, something could go wrong at any point in time. And that's the same thing with basketball. When I look at it and what I had to go through and the adversity I had to battle, and just becoming really good and mastering my craft, you still have to learn to pivot. And that's something that I can relate to with venture capital in the startup space. So I love it, and I don't see myself ever leaving it.
That's awesome. So no, you got to say you're blessed to have not experienced venture capital, because I have, and it's and again, going back to there's so much to learn in all of these industries. You could be doing 8 hours a day for your whole life and still only learn 10% of the industry, right? There's just so much going on there. So that's pretty cool. And I'd love to tell you, I can't wait to meet you and talk about this, because now I'm 62 years old, been around the angel investing and that VC world basically my whole adult life. Now I'm going, okay, that's why I'm so excited about Jeff's event and Kylie's event is let's buy EBITDA. Let's buy EBITDA. Let's not take any more risk at 62 years old. Let's go buy EBITDA and put confident people in to help run these businesses. So I'm excited to meet you. And I that's really cool that you have that correlation and you had that great experience, because, I've been around it a long time too. And the one thing, and I'll let you guys go in, but the one thing that really is really hard for a guy who loves entrepreneurs, and I got the nickname the entrepreneur's best friend, and funded thousands of entrepreneurs, is I never had to go. I just didn't have that stuff to cut them loose, right. And when I got Vulture Capital, it was like they gave me money, kicked me out. 2 years later, came back, said, "You want the company back? We're out. We couldn't make a run without you." Right. And it's like, yeah, you're going to put some more money in it so I can run it with money. Right.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
So the one thing that I have to give a shout out to, and this is very important, I think any young entrepreneur or any entrepreneur in general should do this, because I really speak about this to other athletes all the time. Your mentors, people like yourself, people on this call, you have the ability to shorten my learning curve. Not saying you have to. If you choose to, amazing. And that's why, I speak so highly of Spark Labs Group, because they use their experience in the business of just, I would say, battle scars. And battle scars, comes with experiencing life over a certain period of time. And they help shorten my learning curve. So when you say the Vulture Capital, I have great people around me. And even I would love to pick your brain about it, because there's so many things that I can learn as a young entrepreneur. And I love to soak all this information up like a sponge and know what to look out for.
No, and that's what Jeff and Kylie, and even my background as the founder, it's really about transferring knowledge and wisdom so we can accelerate growth and happiness and just, success. So pretty excited to be here. I'm so glad to be on the call. Thanks for inviting me. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Walt, I have a question on that same kind of note about mentorship. It's like, what do you tell, or maybe your younger self before you knew now what you know, right? But what would you tell younger athletes they can set themselves up for success, instead of now only thinking that's what are you going to do when you're finished being an athlete? What would you tell them? How would you suggest them find that mentor, and what would you tell them?
Yes. So something that I would focus on is the experience, understanding the background of someone, understanding the intentions, and vetting is something that I learned that is so important. Asking multiple people that have worked with the individual that is wanting to work with you or manage your capital or whatever it is, hiring an agent, the list goes on. And vetting is the key. And it's not just, oh, well, I looked on Google and his background looks good. No, ask them for a few numbers, ask around. You don't make a quick decision. When you make quick decisions, that's when you mess up sometimes. And I'm not saying all the time, but sometimes you do. And you pick the wrong person. You don't know their background. You don't know their intentions. And that's very, very key. So that's one of them. And I would say, just for advice, don't quit. Don't give up. Do not quit. Just keep going. When it gets rough, when it's tough and you don't see sunlight, I found joy and love in that process also. And that's relatable to basketball. There were tournaments after putting in so many hours of shooting and dribbling that I didn't see quick results. And that's okay. You don't need to see quick results. Anything that is worth something takes time. And that is something, that's patience. That's having great people around you to instill that information, but also believe in yourself and just keep going. And once you do, when you look up, you'll say, wow, I found love in the process. So that's the advice that I would give.
I love it.
It's great. And it's so true too. I run this podcast, Angels, Exits and Acquisitions, and I speak with a lot of folks, believe it or not, that are athletes that are in business. I had a call with a gentleman earlier this week, actually, I think yesterday. Time flies when you're having so much fun, right? But he was a Harvard, no, I guess it was Friday, but Harvard football player, and then a bunch of his buddies went pro, and he didn't go pro. He ended up in the private equity space and running search funds. And so we were talking about this mentality of, how do you go from being in the sports to running a business and being at that high level of business? And there's a lot of correlations, right? Especially the entrepreneur. The entrepreneur has to get kicked in the face, kicked in the teeth, nonstop, over and over and over again. And sometimes by themselves, right? They're doing a lot of it to themselves. They're beating themselves up. And athletes do the same thing, right? They're on themselves. They're mad. Like if you were going to be a pro athlete at the highest level, then you are your biggest critic in the world, right? And so taking that same mentality, that same grit, and moving it over into business ownership or private equity or VC, you have to be at the top of your game. You have to be able to handle that. And I think you have to have a really, really thick skin to be an entrepreneur, to at the bare minimum, right? If you don't have that thick skin, don't even bother.
I agree. You have to fall in love with your craft. You have to, it's an outer, I want to say it's an outer body experience, but you have to become so, and I'm going to say this, excuse my grammar on this, but insanely in tune with the process and getting something right over and over and over. And that's something when you see the greats, and I'm not talking about the business greats, but the relatable examples. Well, I shouldn't say relatable, but Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, and there's other greats as well, but relatable in basketball for me to relate to those guys. Mm-hmm. But their greatness, they fell in love with it so much, but they became insane with their craft. So,
yeah. Absolutely. I think it was Tim Grove, if I'm not mistaken, wrote a book called Relentless. He's talking about Kobe and Michael and all these guys are just the sweeper mentality, right? Like, I'm going to sweep the floor with you because I'm going to be so good at it, you can't even come close to touch me. And it's that you're from the outside looking in, absolutely insane, right? Like showing up to the gym 3 hours before everybody else does, staying 3 hours after everybody else is gone, doing the ice baths, doing all that stuff. And business the same way, right? Greg is now the entrepreneur and he's run this company and can turn it into a multi-billion-dollar company. The guy works 16 hours a day, right? Again, same mentality, same type of discipline. Walt, thanks so much for being here. Greg, Kylie as well. Really do appreciate it. We're going to wrap it up here. And, I just want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you guys for out there for watching. If you haven't gotten your tickets yet, be sure you get them. We're running out of space right now. We want to make sure you have a space to come and check this out. The Business Wealth Summit happening May 29 to 31 in Nashville. And it's going to be an incredible event. We're going to be talking about business. We're going to be talking about sports. We're going to be talking about making money, buying even private equity. And guess what? Of course, angel investing and a little bit of VC stuff in there as well. So if you guys are excited about learning more about Walt and Walt's journey and hearing more about what we can do to help you with either growing your business, scaling your business, exiting your business, then you got to be in the room. So thanks everyone for being here. I really appreciate it. You guys all have a great rest of your weekend. Take care.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.